Today we're going to be talking about Canon Vixia HF R800 digital camcorder, the latest in Canon's consumer line of digital camcorders. It offers a 57x optical zoom with incredible image stabilization. What makes this camcorder so popular? Even still, after it was released in 2017, it has amassed a large swath of loyal fans. And in this video, we're going to go through settings to reproduce really natural, vibrant colors in whatever situation that you're filming in. Additionally, we are going to talk about why the image stabilization of this camcorder is so good, and why I really like filming outdoors with the Canon HF R800. And we're going to go through some test footage shot. Here we go.
I saw all my mistakes. You saw my abilities. I saw what was missing. You saw space to love me. What did I find? How are you mine?
This is filmed in highlight priority mode.
Reason to stick around. Somehow you got just who I was when all I did was weigh us down. You saw my light when I was blind. You saw me shining.
In this video, we're going to be filming the barrel cactus in front of us there with the Canon HF R800. We're going to start at 0 and zoom in slowly. This is without a tripod. So even though my hand is shaking quite a bit, it's not moving the image is not moving very much at full 57x optical zoom. And here it is on a very small tripod. Okay, now we're going to go over how to power on and insert an SD card into the Canon Vixia HF R800 camcorder. The battery slot is in the back. It inserts into the 4 prongs. The battery included is a Canon BP 727. And if you'll notice on the bottom right of the battery, there's a date, which is a production date stamp. So this battery I actually had from a different camcorder. So this battery is 7 years old and still works fine. Battery cycles will vary depending upon use. So if you're looking at a used camcorder, a used HF R800, it's just something you need to take note of. Pretty quickly you're able to tell when you power on the camcorder if the battery still has much capacity left. Okay, we're gonna insert the battery into the camcorder. And you hear it click, that means it locked into place. And the way this camcorder is set up is once you flip open the LCD hinge, the camcorder will automatically power on. The memory card slot is right here. In this case, I have a 64 gig SD card, but this camcorder will accept up to an astonishingly sized 2 terabyte SD card according to Canon. Also has a microphone input here, an AV out here, HDMI out here, USB cable output here. So we're gonna put in that 64 gig SD card. That it goes in is with the back facing towards me. Locks into place, you see the red light flip on, then you close the slot. It will read the card. Okay, so this is the screen it looks like when you power it on. If you have purchased this camcorder secondhand, or if you're thinking of purchasing this camcorder secondhand, one of the things that I would recommend doing is going to the home section, going to settings, which is on the far left-hand side, clicking into settings, going over to additional settings, and then scrolling down, and hitting reset all. That will reset the camera back to its original settings from Canon, which I would highly recommend. So we're going to click that. Reset value settings to default values. Click yes. It'll take a second or two. Reboot the camcorder and go back to setting the language. We're going to set it to English. Just the date that you want. Okay. We can always go back in and change that later. Okay. Alright, so it is basically as new out of the box now in terms of the setting configuration. So we're going to go in here, and it's set to auto mode. We're going to click on auto mode. And auto mode is what the majority of people will film in most of the time, if you're using this kind of as just an everyday use camcorder. However, there are some additional options that are pretty neat. Got a little bit frisky there with my scrolling. So highlight priority is an option. We'll go ahead and click into that. This is a mode that is handy if you're going to be shooting a lot of content and displaying it on high resolution screens because it makes the contrast pop a little bit more. The backdrop we're using here is a gray backdrop, so it won't show anything. Go back into the shooting mode. We're going to scroll down. We're scrolling. Okay, cinema mode. This is a really cool mode. So what I'm going to do now is go ahead and take the camcorder, and we're going to take it outside and shoot some content in cinema mode. Okay, and we're back. And if you click into cinema mode, the standard cinema mode is what I use most frequently. It just creates kind of a standard cinematic look. Vivid. This kind of negates the purpose of having it in the first place, is it goes back to a kind of a high contrast, bright picture quality. This is kind of a cool feature. It's called Cool. It creates a kind of a grayish blue tint in sepia. It creates a really faded look. You can see the background now kind of went from the gray color to the tan color. And old movies, and that will actually create some pretty neat content. I've also filmed in that as well. It adds kind of a rustic look, and it basically looks like you're filming an old western. Now that we're done with the cinema mode, we're going to go back into the shooting mode, and you'll see scene functionality. So I'm going to go ahead and click into that. This is one that I use quite often for portrait mode. It basically will blur out and create kind of a bokeh effect in the background, which is really a cool feature. Sports. This camcorder, because it shoots in such a high frame rate per second, is able to handle sports very well. And this will accentuate that and enable you to get the best quality content possible. Night scene. This will drop the aperture of the lens and allow the camcorder to kind of optimize the settings for darker situations. Snow. Snow is a very hard medium to film in, just because of the glare that's created from the snow. And this will basically reduce the glare and enable anything that's on the snow to be able to kind of pop. Okay, beach, kind of a similar situation, but instead of the snow reflecting the sun, it's the water reflecting the sun. And then sunset. I've used this a handful of times for sunsets in Arizona, and it actually works quite well. It's able to reduce the glare again and kind of darken the scene while allowing the colors to pop still. Spotlight, haven't used this mode very often. If you have a spotlight shining down, this will kind of accentuate that. And then fireworks. Fireworks are also notoriously hard to film. This will allow the fireworks, whenever they explode, to really pop on the video content that you're shooting. Okay, so that wraps up the scene mode. And we had it set to fireworks. We're going to go back into the scene mode. And now we're going to go to the last one, which is programmed AE. And programmed AE is a mode that will reduce the chance of camera shake because it automatically adjusts the shutter speed. Okay, we're going to click off of that. Now we're going to go into and check out video quality in the Canon HF R800. Click into video quality. So you can see there's 4 options currently, and what we have here, it's set to out of the box as standard full HD. We have a 64 gigabyte card, and that will allow a recording time of roughly 8 hours. Now, if we adjust it to the worst quality, which is the 4 megabits per second, you can see that 8 hours balloons to 33 hours. And then when we go up to 24, it's going to go to 5 hours and 40 minutes of recording time. And then the highest quality, which is 60 frames per second, it will drop to 3 hours and 50 minutes. So when you record it in the 60 frames per second, you are unable to shoot in dual recording, decoration, and cinema filters, which isn't a big deal. That's just the only limitation of recording in the 60p. Okay, now we've wrapped up video quality section of the HF R800. We're going to go over to the main functions, which is on the far right hand side, and click. So here we have video snapshot, we have audio scene, we have slow and fast motion, and we have zoom type. If we click into video snapshot and hit on, we're able to actually take a snapshot within the video. I'm going to go ahead and turn it off and back out. You can click the I button here, and it will show you what you're recording in this case 60 frames per second, and how much recording time you have left on your SD card. And then hit the triangle again and it'll make it go away. Okay, now we're going to go into the main functions section. We did video snapshot, now we're going to do audio. So audio is going to enable some changes in the recording of the built-in microphone on the Canon HF R800. What I would recommend personally is using an external microphone if you're shooting a lot with this camcorder. Insert microphone here. However, if you do not have an external microphone, you're able to adjust the audio recording based upon the situation that you're filming in. So it's set to standard. The microphone is right here. The external microphone input, if you have an external mic, is right here. If you don't, you have the option of recording in standard, which is what it's preset to. Music, if you're recording, say, a music video with this camcorder, this is a really good option to allow you to get all of the instruments that are playing, if there's multiple instruments. Speech is going to focus on the decibel range that people's voices are. So that's a particularly good one if you're recording monologues or any sort of drama content. Forest and birds, in any natural situation, and I've used this outdoors as well. I'm something of a bit of a birder. Reproduce especially the high decibel calls of birds. And then we're going to go to noise suppression, particularly if you're shooting in a city and there's a lot of, say, taxis driving around or cars or general noise or trains. That will reduce the decibel range of the very loud situations compared to what you're actually trying to film. Okay, now we've covered the audio content and the audio capabilities of the HF R800. So here we have self-timer. We click into that. If you'd like to set a timer, you're able to. Zoom speed. So variable zoom means that, in essence, with the zoom toggle, which is here, when you zoom, your zoom speed will vary depending on how hard you press down on the lever. And what this means is that you're able to adjust the speed to either be very fast or very slow. We're going to go ahead and leave it at variable. But one of the cool things, if you switch to speed 3, say, and we zoom back out, Whenever we do that, you can see it zooming in very slowly. But it allows a very consistent zoom, as opposed to the variable zoom, which would be in and out in just a second. So if you're shooting a movie or content where you need a very exact pan or a very exact zoom in, that's a great functionality. Go back into other settings. Zoom position at startup, you're able to manually adjust that. Framing assistance area. So if we go into framing assistance, it's set to auto. You can also set it to manual, which we'll go into in a second. Focus assistance, face detection and tracking. If for whatever reason you want to turn that off, you're able to turn it off here. Auto backlight, it's set to on. Auto slow shutter is set to on. Flicker reduction is set to off. Image stabilizer. So it's set to dynamic. There's also a standard option and an off option. It's preset out of the box to the dynamic mode. And what that basically means is, especially with a camcorder like the HF R800 that has such a good optical zoom, there can be a lot of artifacts and judder whenever you are especially zoomed in at that higher range. So the camcorder has built-in capability to deal with that and smooth it out, essentially. So that's why it's set to dynamic out of the box. However, if you have an additional, say, gimbal or something that would allow you to stabilize the camcorder, you can set it to off and let the other unit do the work. Video snapshot length, it's preset to 4 seconds. You can adjust that here. We're just going to go pretty quickly through here because it is some more advanced things that generally you're not going to have to worry about. LCD brightness, if you're shooting in a situation, say outdoors, you're able to manually adjust the LCD brightness. You can see the screen darken substantially. The LCD backlight, the LCD mirror image, current HDMI status, and then scrolling into the last thing here, we have the language setting, which if you didn't do the initial setup or it's set into a different language, all you have to do is go to settings, click on language, and choose whichever language you'd like. Time zone, likewise, date time, view assistance, available space in memory. So it'll show you how much total space you have. That's equivalent to 64 gig. The space on the card, and then the current filming style, and how much available time is left. AV headphones for listen back. Notification sounds, you're able to, if you didn't want the camcorder to make any noises, you're able to adjust that here. Battery info. So it says we have 120 minutes of recording time available. If you're using an aftermarket battery that is not Canon, oftentimes this will not be available because Canon has a proprietary chip that they use inside of the batteries. Displayed units, you can adjust that to metric. File numbering, you're able to adjust here for file numbering that you save on the SD card. Auto power off, you can adjust that here. Power on using LCD panel, that's set to on, like we showed at the very beginning of this video. You're able to turn that off there. Initialize SD, that's formatting the SD card, which you can do so here. So we're going to go ahead and click initialize. That's going to delete everything on the SD card. And then lastly, the reset all. So that covers an in-depth look at the menu functionality of the Canon HF R800.